Batman Arkham Knight's Arkham Episodes need rewriting. Just when I thought I was out, I drag myself back in. I thought I was done with rewriting Arkham Knight after my main story and side mission videos, but then it was pointed out to me that there is still additional story content with the Arkham Episodes. You know, those 10 to 20 minute mini stories that focus on one of the other playable characters. While there isn't too much meat on the bone of these Arkham Episodes, I think they are in a unique position to offer the player some deeper insight into the events after the main story, specifically around how Red Hood fits into the larger Arkham-verse. Obviously, this is just insane fanfiction at this point that fits into a continuity established in my previous videos. This is about as nerdy gets. So, if you're sure you want to proceed, let me explain what my plan is. The Arkham Episodes exist to provide desperate players with an opportunity to play as fan-favorite characters through some challenge maps interconnected with story threads. I actually think what we got from the original Arkham Episodes was a great addition to this game from Rocksteady, but as a greedy fan, always hungry for more Batfamily, I want to try and make them a little bit better. Like all my previous rewrites, I only want to operate within the framework as established in the original game. What that means is that I won't be making any suggestions that break the gameplay. In fact, for my purposes, I don't think any maps or gameplay even need to be touched. These are all just dialogue and cutscene changes that I think would create a more enjoyable and interconnected experience. That's the key word for this rewrite: interconnected. I think there was a big opportunity to have these Arkham Episodes actually feel like episodes of a connected story, rather than little side missions in a universe that doesn't really touch. In order to do that, I had to break the Arkham Episodes into two different categories: pre-Arkham Knight and post-Arkham Knight. You'll notice that the only pre-episodes are Harley Quinn and Batgirl. Harley Quinn's episode takes place right before Arkham Knight, whereas Batgirl's mission takes place sometime before Arkham Asylum. That is why I'm not focusing on the Matter of Family DLC for this video, which doesn't feel like it fits within the Arkham Episode moniker anyway, and was just included in that menu because they didn't know where else to put it. Since Harley's mission ties directly into Arkham Knight, I thought it'd be fun to tweak that too, and I'll include it at the very end. However, the bulk of this video is going to focus on the Arkham Episodes set after Arkham Knight: Catwoman, Red Hood, Nightwing, and Robin. My goal is to rewrite these episodes to give fans a bit more than what was in the original, and to use these episodes to establish a new status quo in Gotham following the events of Arkham Knight that is mainly focused on Red Hood setting up shop. So, let's get started by taking a look at Catwoman's Arkham episode. Canonically, the Catwoman mission takes place the soonest after the main game. This mission deals with her taking revenge on the Riddler by going in to steal his money while he's locked up in jail. The Riddler's goons are still waiting to get paid, and Selina infiltrates Riddler's base, takes out the goons, and goes into the secret robot factory beneath. During this, Riddler calls into his computer under the guise of contacting his lawyer to try and activate a jailbreak using his robots. Selina makes her presence known, taunts Riddler, defeats his robots, steals his money, all while the Riddler is freaking out until eventually he gets tased by Aaron Cash. The end. I like that this side mission is all about Catwoman getting her much-deserved revenge on the Riddler. I think that's a fun dynamic and some catharsis for her character after being held hostage for the entirety of the main game. I like going into Riddler's secret base and robot factory. I had forgotten that was even a thing when I made my side mission rewrite and mentioned a destroyed Riddler factory, but it ties in perfectly to this episode. In my continuity, it explains what Catwoman knows where the space is, so we don't need any vague statement about her interrogating some random thug. It actually ties in really well, much better than I could have even planned. I would have most of this mission pan out the same way, with Catwoman infiltrating the base looking to steal some stinky money, but the only thing I would change is the Riddler. That may sound odd since he's not even physically in this episode, so let me explain. In the original, the Riddler calls in just to activate some kind of robot jailbreak protocol, but it's more of an excuse to get him to call in than it is a real plot point. Worst of all, it doesn't connect to the money that Catwoman is here for. So instead, I would have Riddler calling in frantically to his computer, telling it to transfer a huge sum of money to a specific account number. He can still be bumbling through his banter with the computer, that's all fine, but during that, we should get the sense that the Riddler is panicked. He can say something like, "That brute is right. I have no need for such a vast fortune. Even behind bars, I can make it back and then some. And certainly, my life is worth far more than the measly pittance he's asking for." That's when Catwoman jumps in to taunt him about stealing his money. This sends Riddler deeper into desperation as he orders the last of his robots to kill Catwoman, who easily defeats them. Before Riddler's pulled away from the phone, he begins cursing Catwoman, saying that she's killed him, that his blood is on her hands, and that she better watch her back because he wants that money. Ooh, mysterious. That's where the mission ends, and that's about all I'd change. I think that Red Hood's Arkham episode was the one most people were eager to play. I have to say, from a pure gameplay perspective, this is by far the most fun out of all the episodes I'm talking about today. Being able to blast goons in the face with cartoonishly oversized pistols was a welcome change-up, although it does make Red Hood feel incredibly OP. Regardless of that, I think that Red Hood's story is actually the most bare bones. To sum it up, he's just tracking down Black Mask to try and stop his gun smuggling through a series of goons. First it's a combat challenge, then a stealth challenge, then a combat challenge mixed with a minor boss fight. At the end, he kills Black Mask, and I think we could do better. My first change would be to have an actual story. I think this episode can start in the same way as the original, with Red Hood arriving to take down some Black Mask goons who are smuggling guns. When they first see Red Hood, they are terrified of him because of his reputation around town. This establishes that some time has passed since the events of Arkham Knight. I'd say it's been about 2 months. Red Hood beats and kills them all until he gets down to the last goon, who he interrogates, but the goon won't talk. Through dialogue, we learn that Black Mask has been hiding from Red Hood for the last couple of weeks, and all the goons Red Hood has been tracking down in that time have been suspiciously loyal. Red Hood has deduced that's because their families are being paid extremely well, even in the event of their death. He got sick of playing the long game and decided to track down some of those families. He threatens to kill this goon's wife, using her first name, if he doesn't tell him where Black Mask is. He won't actually do it, but the goon doesn't need to know that. So the goon doesn't have Black Mask's exact location, but he knows where someone who does is. Jason thanks him, tells him that he will make sure the goon's wife is taken care of thanks to a large sum of money he'll soon have, and then he kills him. After this, we proceed to the same stealth area in the original game with the goal of saving the man in charge for last so that Red Hood can interrogate him. I also think this added layer would make the gameplay feel a little more challenging rather than a complete slaughter fest you can run through pretty easily. Red Hood takes everyone down and then interrogates the last goon for Black Mask's location. He isn't talking, and unlike with the previous goon, Jason hasn't had time to research his family history, so some good old-fashioned torture will have to do. A gunshot to his leg gets him talking. He reveals where Black Mask is held up, but he tells Red Hood that he'll never be able to bring down his operation. Red Hood responds with, "I'm counting on it," before shooting the goon in the face. Red Hood finally arrives at Black Mask's hideout and begins to fight the thugs just like in the original. During this fight, there are some lines of dialogue with Red Hood and Black Mask that inform us more of what has been going on between them. We find out that Red Hood made an offer weeks ago, that Black Mask hand over a significant amount of money as well as all of his operations, and in exchange, Red Hood would let him live to work under him. Black Mask refused, not wanting to part with his rising criminal empire now that most of Gotham's underworld has been disrupted by the events of Arkham Knight. Jason reinforces that this was the best offer he was willing to make, stating that if it wasn't for a certain cat interfering in his affairs, he would have already killed Black Mask. The gameplay remains the same, and the mission ends with Red Hood confronting Black Mask. In this version of events, Jason cannot flat out kill him, yet, but he shoots both of his shoulders so that he can't fight or even hold a gun. He then threatens his life by dangling him out the window, saying that this is his final offer. If Black Mask doesn't take it, he dies here, and Red Hood will just find another wannabe kingpin to puppeteer. Black Mask pleads for his life, agreeing to Red Hood's terms, and Red Hood throws him to the floor, telling him to get on the phone with his accountants to begin some transfers. Jason then tells him that there's going to be some changes to the operation. No more dealing drugs to kids, no more shaking down small businesses for protection money. Black Mask tells him their profits will take a serious hit and wants to know what Red Hood is planning. Jason tells him that he's simply consolidating power in his city. The end. Now, we move on to Nightwing. In the original Arkham episode, Nightwing finds out that Penguin's goons are gathering some illicit funds in Bloodhaven and are planning to break Penguin out of the GCPD. So, Nightwing heads to Gotham and is communicating with Lucius Fox, who is now in control of all the Wayne assets, and I actually really like this partnership. Based on dialogue from Lucius, it sounds like this mission takes place right before Robin's episode, since Barbara apparently sent her regards and pictures of their honeymoon. Nightwing takes out the goons in the GCPD GCPD and on the roof and recaptures the Penguin. Cash suggests they fix and replace the bat signal, but Nightwing declines the offer, telling him this isn't permanent. The end. I really enjoy this mission, but it doesn't fit with my continuity, and again, while there is mention of Robin and Barbara, it doesn't feel like there's any significant connection with the larger goings-on of this world. So, let's tweak some stuff. Firstly, everything about Nightwing replacing Batman in Gotham and Lucius taking over Bruce Wayne's assets has to change. Remember, in my version of events, Batman isn't unmasked, nor is he believed to be dead. But I still think we could provide a good reason why Batman isn't around to handle this Penguin situation. Alfred, by the grace of God, actually convinced him to take a vacation and get some much needed father-son bonding time with Damian outside of their costumes. So, as much as I love Lucius, and I think him and Dick are a surprisingly good pairing, I'm replacing Lucius with Alfred for this mission. This way, Nightwing can catch up on what's been going on with the Batman side of things, while not directly showing Batman. Also, since Bruce trusted Gotham to Dick while he is away, the mission doesn't have to start in Bloodhaven, and he can instead find Penguin's goons where they belong, in good old Gotham City. The mission would begin in a different way. Nightwing infiltrates the base, and as he's crawling around, being a sneaky gremlin, we hear the goons arguing. The group is split about what they want to do next. Half of the people are saying that they should cut their losses and head out of town, that they can escape if they just leave the city behind. The other half tells them that they're crazy, that like it or not, they'll be much safer under the Penguin's protection if they just play along. They're all packing up vans with some illicit money and goodies, so Nightwing drops down, beats them all up, interrogates the last goon, and learns about the Penguin's prison break. From here, Nightwing contacts Alfred and heads for the GCPD. He hops on the comms with Penguin and does his voice impersonation that is hilariously terrible, but I don't like how that's handled in the original. Penguin recognizes that it's Nightwing right away, but later on he falls for it without any doubts. So in this version, I'm just gonna have Penguin fall for it throughout the whole mission. While Nightwing is going through, taking out the goons, he can be giving Penguin encouraging updates that are inflating his ego and buttering him up to get some info. We learn that Penguin is executing this jailbreak now because his territory is under threat. He thought he would be able to manage it from prison no problem, but a new player in town thought he could step into his territory without any consequences. This new guy even gathered up all of Penguin's lieutenants and killed the ones who didn't betray him. Essentially, Penguin is gearing up for a gang war. Nightwing then lures Penguin out of the elevator and surprises him. Then, the mission comes to an end. Afterwards, Nightwing reconnects with Alfred before going back out on patrol for the night, and the two wonder who this new player in Gotham is who has Penguin feeling threatened. Nightwing even states that violent crime has been lower than usual for the last few weeks, which hasn't made much sense to him since Black Mask's crew has been expanding. It might be worth looking into more. Now, onto the Robin mission. The mission that takes place the furthest out from the ending of Arkham Knight. In the original mission, we are told that Robin and Barbara left their honeymoon early to head back to Gotham to take care of Two-Face. Throughout this mission, Barbara is in Tim's ear, and we get some reference to how their lives have moved on since the main story. Things are simple enough. Two-Face is laundering money from robbed banks, and the mission starts with a stealth challenge map, which is followed by maneuvering through an HQ, and ends with a combat challenge map. The main arc Robin goes on deals with coming out of Batman's shadow and feeling like he can't be the good cop anymore. It's about Tim coming into his own as a new hero without Batman, and Barbara encouraging him to be better than Batman was. There is some interesting stuff here, but I think more could be done to put a nice bow on the story of all these Arkham episodes. Since the Robin map is just a brand new one created for this episode anyway, the location could be anywhere, right? There's absolutely no reason this map needs to be in Gotham, so instead, let's just have the entire mission take place during Tim and Barbara's honeymoon. They don't drop everything and come back to Gotham for Two-Face. No. Two-Face is actually where they are on vacation. That's why someone else just doesn't take care of this. It was always weird to me that Tim and Barbara had to fly halfway across the world to take care of Two-Face when they could have at least called Nightwing. In my continuity, even Batman is around, so having it take place outside of Gotham just takes care of those logistics. I also think this taking place while still technically on their honeymoon could make for some more interesting and comedic dialogue as well. It'll give Tim and Barbara some personality here, rather than it being so focused on comparing Tim to Bruce. That's kind of stale and forced. In the original version, Two-Face managed to break out of jail, and this works perfectly for our purposes. In my continuity, his breakout actually happened at the same time as the Penguin attempt that Nightwing thwarted. It only makes sense that Two-Face would plan his escape against his rival, and 2 prison breaks on the same night just fits his theme. Unlike Penguin, Two-Face wasn't looking for a gang war. He's had enough of Gotham City, feeling deflated from his actions in his side story, and fled to start a new criminal empire far from the Bat's territory. Unfortunately for him, while he was just getting his feet under him in sunny wherever the hell Tim and Babs went, let's say Corto Maltese, he so happens to make his appearance a bit too public. The mission structure itself can remain the same, where Two-Face is laundering money and Tim has to stop him. But rather than Barbara and Tim talking about how Tim has to step up and be a better man than Batman, now they can be talking about what Tim is going to do now that Bruce is training Damian. Remember, in my continuity, Tim quits being Robin during the events of Arkham Knight. Barbara pesters him throughout the mission, asking what his new name is going to be and when he's finally gonna change his costume, teasing him that it's very confusing to have 2 Robins running around. Tim tells Barbara that he hasn't had time to update his costume, and he's had a hard time coming up with a new name. Nothing about the events of the stealth map themselves need to change. Robin proceeds to the second map, which rather than being whatever weird Gotham building it was in the original, this is Two-Face's new Caribbean-inspired base. If I'm making any major change throughout these episodes, it's an update to the cosmetics of this base that makes it more fun and colorful. When Tim arrives, Two-Face curses that Batman has found him, but when he realizes it's just Robin, he isn't afraid anymore. The battle throughout the base proceeds as it did in the original, but when it comes to the Two-Face confrontation, things are different. Two-Face begins mocking Tim, the older Robin as he calls him. He's heard of the new Robin running around with Batman and calls Tim washed up. He makes a remark about how they're stealing his gimmick with 2 of them and decides to fix that problem himself. Before shooting Tim, Two-Face says, "I'm about to paint that ugly suit red, Robin." He fires, but Tim pulls some maneuver and takes Two-Face down. After this, Tim interrogates Two-Face, questioning why he'd come so far south. Two-Face tells Tim that there wasn't enough room for him in Gotham anymore. He'd outgrown it and didn't want to deal with all the freaks. Robin presses him more, and this is where Two-Face reveals that there is a new player in town. Calls himself the Red Hood. He somehow convinced Black Mask to hand over control of his operations. He wants all of Gotham's criminal operations to report directly to him, and if they don't, then he will kill them. Riddler has already got a target on his back for some deal that fell through, Penguin didn't want to play ball, so it's open season on anyone loyal to him, and Two-Face just wanted to get out of town. Things are about to change in Gotham, there's gonna be a new face of organized crime, and it's not gonna be either of his. Tim knocks him out and talks to Barbara. They wonder who this Red Hood guy could be, and before the fade to black, Tim says, "Hey Babs, what do you think about the name Red Robin?" She sighs. "Let's brainstorm a bit more." Tim finishes with, "It does have a certain ring to it." And there you have it. I've used the post-story Arkham episodes to set up a new status quo for Gotham City. Obviously, there's no sequel game to Arkham Knight, and I'm not going to be so insane as to try and write one. I just thought that since these Arkham episodes exist, and since they already do set up Red Hood as a new vigilante in Gotham City, that it would be more fun to connect these by teasing ideas for future stories that fans can imagine playing out in their minds years after they experienced this game. That was the goal, to just create an overall better fan experience. It isn't perfect, and maybe you'll view it as too much of a tease, but I know if I played these missions with these tweaks, I would have gotten a kick out of the storyline being set up. But I'm not done yet. There's one last Arkham episode left for me to rewrite. It isn't really connected to the other 4, so if you don't care about Harley, feel free to bow out now. Harley Quinn's mission takes place right before the events of the main story. She goes to Bloodhaven to break Poison Ivy out before she is transferred to Blackgate so that she can join Scarecrow's alliance. Her man in the chair, her earpiece guru, is Penguin, which I feel is actually a fun pairing. Harley tears through the police station and gets to Ivy's cell, where she is intercepted by Nightwing, who she takes down very easily, and then Ivy just drags him away with a plant, and that's that. Kinda fucked up. So, let's make some changes. Harley is too upbeat. She is making fun banter with Penguin, which boils down to British joke most of the time. She occasionally mentions the Joker while in combat, but in ways that both don't make sense and aren't interesting. As she takes down a cop, she'll say something like, "What did you say about the Joker?" Like, okay, cool. We know Harley is connected to the Joker. Is that the best you've got? So my biggest change would be that Harley should still be deeply in mourning over Mr. J. I don't think she should be too dissimilar from how she was in Harley Quinn's Revenge in Arkham City. She should still be furious with the Bat, which ties into my original rewrite. She has agreed to help Scarecrow only because she thinks it's the only way to kill Batman. I think the Mayhem mode shouldn't be a quirky thing. It can still be cool and wacky, but it should primarily be driven by her unbearable grief and rage. Essentially, her whole attitude is just off in this mission. Now, the Nightwing confrontation is tough. I do think that it's cool to fight against one of the other playable characters. That actually was never done in an open combat setting like this throughout the rest of the game, so it is unique. And any excuse to see more Nightwing, I'll take. The obvious problem is what a chump this mission makes him out to be. Again. Someone on the Arkham Knight writing staff must have really thought Nightwing was incompetent. Anyway, it's tricky because you obviously can't have Harley lose to Nightwing, but you don't want Nightwing to go down like a weenie. The best way to rectify this would be to incorporate Ivy into the fight more often. I think Nightwing taking on Harley and Ivy at once is a more difficult task and is more satisfying than Ivy randomly jumping in at the end and insta-defeating him. So what I would do is treat this Nightwing fight as an actual boss fight rather than facing a slightly more acrobatic goon with a bigger health bar. Nightwing has his health divided into 3, just like the Arkham Asylum boss fights. Once Harley beats him enough, it goes to a quick time event where Harley manages to throw a stun Nightwing toward one of Ivy's plants, and they do a combo of sorts where Nightwing gets bashed around a bit, but manages to break free. This makes sense with the gameplay because another element of this mission is in the stealth section where Harley can use Ivy's plants to take down cops. Definitely incorporate that into defeating Nightwing. Repeat that twice, and on the last one, Ivy gives up on trying to kill him, which is proving too difficult, and decides to at least buy themselves some time and drag him far away, which is in line with the original end to the fight. Something that bothers me about all of these Arkham episodes is that they just kind of end awkwardly once the game designers felt they delivered what was expected of them. Can't we actually see the scene of Harley and Ivy talking? No, they just kind of silently stare at each other as the mission ends. Boring. I would use this time to flesh out Harley's headspace with a character that she sees as a friend. Show just how unstable she is, but have Ivy try and tell Harley that she's better off without the Joker, only for Harley to get real cold and harsh with Ivy. They go to leave, and looking down through a skylight is the Arkham Knight. A little tie-in to my rewrite where he recruits her to use against Batman. Cut. That's a wrap. Now I'm officially done. That is everything I could possibly rewrite for Arkham Knight, except for a matter of family, but I don't really feel like touching that. Feels too disconnected to be an enjoyable experience, which is kind of how I felt while playing it. I hope you got some enjoyment out of these alternate reality what-if scenario rewrites I've been making for some nonsensical purpose. They have been fun for me to make, and I've loved hearing your ideas, which are usually better than mine. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.